Hello, it's Roger Bisbee here from Skill Builder. I'm back on the sofa with Robin Clever.
And he's going to talk about a load of rubbish.
I am going to talk rubbish for the next, I don't know how long it'll be, but this is something that's very close to a lot of people's hearts, and this is the problem of getting rid of rubbish in the UK. Now, if you're abroad, you might not understand this. You might just think, what's the problem here? But we are absolutely plagued in this country now, because not only have we got strict regulations for getting rid of rubbish, which I applaud, but we've also got this nightmare situation where getting rid of rubbish is getting harder and harder, hence fly tipping.
It's a major problem.
Yeah, you go down the country lanes, you go anywhere, well, not even the country lanes, you go through cities and you just see rubbish tipped illegally. A lot of this has come about when, I was working in London recently, I needed a skip. And the skip was 258 quid, I think. It cost £110 a day to the local authority to keep the skip on the road.
No way.
Yeah,
that's unreal, isn't it?
And then it's got to be lit, and then we'll see insurance and all the rest of it. So,
and you've got the risk of people filling it up for you as soon as you're back.
That's a given. That's a given. By the following morning, every other neighbour in the street has been out there and shoved their stuff on your skip. I've got to say that I don't lose it very often, but I lost it a few months ago when I was sitting in the van making a phone call and I saw somebody walk past the skip and dump some rubbish in it. I jumped out. I gave this guy both barrels, gave him hell. I was so cross because I just watched every single day that skip, something else was in it, something else, and it's theft, isn't it, basically? So it's hard. So it's a nightmare to having a skip. It's a nightmare not having a skip, because then who are you going to, you got to get one of those guys.
You can't transport it, you can't drive it around.
Because you need a waste carrier's license. Now, even getting somebody else to dispose of your rubbish. So you've got some rubbish on site, you've done a little job. So in my case, it might be you've done a little kitchen, you've chucked out all the old units. They're all lying there in the front garden. Guy drives past, rather helpful guy. He comes past, he says, I say, sir, would you like me to take that rubbish away for you for a fee? Because that's how they talk, isn't it, most of them? And I say, yeah, that's very nice of you. And he said, well, just leave it to me and that'll be £150 in cash. And I think, oh, that's a bargain. And the guy takes it down the road and dumps it in somebody else's drive, or in a industrial estate, or a country lane or whatever. So that's that. You apparently, just to have that guy take the rubbish away, you need a waste carrier's license.
So you've got to be responsible. It ultimately comes back to you. So let's say that scenario, someone does come along, you agree a bit of a deal, you think, I just want to get rid of it, and it does get fly tipped down the road. They, the local authority guys, they don't just go and clear that up. They sift through it. They look for evidence. It's a criminal act. And if that address is traced back to where you're working, for example, it might have been a delivery ticket you've thrown in there or something like that, they'll come back and see you and they'll investigate further. They could want to know, was it you? They might accuse you of doing it. So just tread real careful if that's the case.
Well, the problem is with that is that, I am absolutely so passionately against fly tipping. I absolutely hate it. And these guys come round see me and I say, I'll get rid of your rubbish, Mr. Oh no, they don't talk like that, do they? I'll get rid of your rubbish. Anyway, so I say no, don't, because I can't rely on you. I don't know whether you're going to tip it, whether you're going to do it legitimately. In fact, my neighbour, she had them round, get rid of some rubbish, 35 quid. That's so cheap. It's 35 quid to take this bit of rubbish away. And I said to her, do you know, they cannot dispose of that legally for £35. It's going to cost them 100 quid. I said, that's going to end up in a country lane. And she was almost like shrugged her shoulders. And I went, how can you be like that? You call yourself an upright sort of member. She was a teacher. And I thought, no, that's a terrible attitude to have. I would never help those guys. But I've got to say, when I look at the cost of a skip and I look at the licenses and the tax, and let's not even mention plasterboard, because you stick plasterboard in a skip, suddenly you're into a whole different thing.
I know, that's a crazy one, that is.
Do you know why?
I don't know why plasterboard can't go in the skip. And so they said about something about it's hard to, it doesn't break down or whatever.
No, it's funny. Very, very few guys, they all know the problem. Everyone knows that you can't put plasterboard in. And the reason you can't do it is because if it mixes with organic waste, anything in there that's green, anything in there that's even topsoil, all the rest of it, it rots down. There's a reaction between two things. It rots down and it releases a poisonous gas.
Really?
You know, and it's not not an innocent gas. It's a proper poisonous gas. That will do you no good whatsoever.
That's interesting.
So you don't go burying plasterboard in your garden thinking that's a great idea. You've got a hole in the end of the garden, you think I'll chuck that plasterboard in there because it will rot down. So what they have to do with plasterboard is if it goes to the recycling plant, they have to separate it out, and then it either has to go for recycling as gypsum waste on its own, or it has to be buried somewhere in the landfill site where there isn't any organic waste. So it can go among the brick rubble. So in theory, if you had got a skip load of brick rubble and you put plasterboard in it, and that brick rubble was going to a landfill, it'd be fine. But it's not. What happens then is it then goes to the recycling plant, the brick rubble, and it gets ground up, used as concrete or road scalping or whatever, that kind of thing. So it's all tricky, and of course we've got to remember that in skips a lot of the stuff is going to waste transfer stations now and being recycled, isn't it?
It is such a, when you're pricing a job, trying to estimate for the amount of waste that there's going to be is an absolute minefield. And I actually now sometimes if I'm taking a job, and I'll say to the clients, you are responsible for the rubbish, we'll fill the skips as we need them, but as we need them we'll tell you that we need another skip. And it does two things. First of all, when I put a skip sometimes on a client's drive, they have a tendency to fill it up as well, which can be a little bit gutting if it's the last one you want on there. It's all full of cardboard and you think, oh no. And the other thing is, when I fill a skip, it's kind of like I don't put the greedy boards in it, maybe a little greedy board.
You pack your skips carefully.
We pack our skips carefully.
You don't chuck stuff in.
We actually, you never see timber all sort of slung in like that. I mean, timber I try to recycle as much as possible, try to settle that to one side. If it's second-hand floorboards, people will gladly come and take that stuff away for free, put it on free cycle or somewhere like that. So when you're doing a job, if you've got 6 or 8 weeks on the job, a little bit of planning, a little bit of careful, tidy stacking and all the rest of it, you can find that there are a lot of people out there who want the pallets, who want the floorboards, providing they're safe, they're not going to come on site and hurt themselves, cut themselves, and they're going to sue you for that. But you can do quite a lot. And so what goes into the skip is just what needs to go into the skip, especially hardcore. If you've got a decent bit of hardcore, you can bag it up in ton bags, and then people will come around and take that away for free.
But you know what? The other thing that I've done quite a lot, and I try to encourage people to do, is get a crusher, because it doesn't cost that much money to get yourself a mini crusher in for the day.
Yeah.
You can chuck all that. So when you see these guys hacking out a driveway, all the old concrete, all the old flagstones, or whatever it is they're doing, and they're putting it in a skip, and then a week or a couple of days later, they're buying it type 1.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
Type 1 MOT. So
in fact, on your recommendation, I did that at my house. All the internal walls were all face brickwork with no plaster. It was all brickwork on show, and the external walls. And we had a medium-sized crusher. We operated it ourselves. The guy came along. I think it was £300 for the day with the delivery, and we put tons and tons and tons of stuff in it.
With a digger. Quite a big one. Was it digger loader one?
It was a digger loader. We had to use a particular type machine, 3-ton machine, because a 1.5-ton machine didn't lift it high enough without you catching it.
Yeah, it catches the wires and then it switches the thing off.
Or he didn't want us to sort of knock the jib on the the arm on the.
Okay.
So it was brilliant, and so on Roger's recommendation, I did that, and I had a beautiful pile of crush which we've spread out and done for sort of bases and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a really good tip.
I remember you getting a lot of stick from somebody about. They said, "Oh, that lovely face brickwork. What are you doing with them? Those are worth £4 each. Those bricks
through the crusher. They were like they weren't stocks. I wouldn't have thrown stocks.
They were yellow stocks.
So that's another thing. I mean, it's like micro recycling on site. It's kind of like all your bricks you take out, stack them to one side, because 9 out of 10 times you've done a little bit of piecing and you need a few of the old bricks.
Absolutely.
It's all of the awkward stuff to get rid of, like old bulk bags and all that sort of stuff. If they've got to rip in them, they've got to throw them away.
Well, there was a time when the merchants took them back. Now they're a single-use bulk bag.
They are,
which is annoying, because it costs about £5 or £6 those bulk bags. So every load you're paying £5. They're not going to take them back. And the other thing that slightly annoys me is I get a delivery from the merchants, and a week later I get another delivery from the merchants, and I say to the guy, "Would you like these pallets back? You can take these pallets back." They were his pallets. He delivered the stuff on those pallets. "Oh no, I'm not allowed to take them back." I say, "You're joking. I don't want them. And surely you can use some pallets, but no, they won't take them back." So I think in a way, again, it's one of these things that whenever the government's got a problem, they try and solve it by licences and legislation, and it's not going to solve it. And so now they're saying the supplier needs to be made responsible for the waste.
Yeah.
And you think, well, how's that going to work? You know?
I mean, landfill tax, everyone's going to sort of comment on landfill tax. That's something that came in. Well, it's always been there. I think they just raised the landfill tax.
Do you know what happened? That was a very interesting little phase there, which we went through, which is that, again, I can talk about this, the EU, if you like, but they decided that for environmental reasons, they were going to have these landfill taxes, right? So every load of stuff you got, there was a tax on, like I'm talking about, you've got a load of ballast, and so there's a landfill tax because they've dug something out of the ground, and now they're going to put something back in place of it. So you've got to pay to the government a tax for them filling that hole in the ground, and you think, oh, that's a clever idea, isn't it? So what happens? Suddenly, the whole country is covered, every single drive, every single patio you see, Indian sandstone. There's no sandstone left in India because so much of it came over on the boats to every patio. I'm honest.
Yeah, lots of it.
Right?
50% patios.
There was nothing else. Nobody wanted anything else. So suddenly, there is no landfill tax in India.
No,
they've gone completely around the problem by sourcing it from abroad. So the EU's big scheme for stopping this happening, suddenly it wasn't happening because it was all coming out of India. And this is what, to a certain extent, if we have a problem, and I don't want to get too political here, and probably people say I'm totally misinformed about all this as well, but it seems to me that when we got a problem, we just export it. We've got
somewhere else.
We've got some legislation which stops us from doing a certain thing because it's a hazardous thing, so we send it to China, and they get poisoned or polluted or whatever.
I know, I mean, it's actually a lot of plastic used to get sort of sent recycled, packaged up, and sent out to places like India and China and third world countries, and they used to, you see these people traipsing around almost in bare feet sometimes, trying to sift and sort and all the rest of it, and
apparently
it's heartbreaking.
They've had enough of it now.
It's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. But actually, talking about recycling plastic or recycling anything, a couple of good friends of mine have come up with a really good bit of kit. It's from recycled plastic. It's a 4-sided box.
I've seen it.
It's called. Well, I won't mention the name because
why?
No, because I don't know how far they're along the line of patent and all.
Well, I remember going to see them.
So these guys, what they do, they're landscape gardeners. They work mainly in London. Lots of landlocked terrace houses or houses with limited access. So it's all wheelbarrow stuff. So what they do is they have to get all their stuff delivered in ton bags, and then they take the stuff out of the ton bags, barrow it through, and put it back into ton bags. So they've got these 4-sided framework. The bag drops in. It will take a scaffold board, and it really is easy to fill back up efficiently, back up the bulk bags. But they're made out of recycled plastic. They're really hard wearing, and what a great idea! I just want to help them push that along a little bit, really. And
well, you can't help them push it along if you don't say what their name is. But I'll try and get some details on that because I did go and see those guys. I photographed that product they've got. It's a very, very clever idea, and I said to them, I think you're missing a trick here. This would be a good product out in the public parks and everything else, when you're having pop festivals and so on, and you have these set up all the way around with bulk bags, and then the guys can just come around and pick them up for a grab. In actual fact, I've seen, go to various places like, in Italy, for example, where they just have these little transits going around. They're not even big. They've got a little high ab on them, and all the bags are pink, funnily enough, like the big Biffo bags are yellow. But everybody uses them. You don't see a metal skip anywhere. All you see is little bulk bags. People fill the rubbish up, and the guy just goes around like a milk round, picking up all the rubbish. And what a brilliant idea! I
think there's a lot to be said for collecting rubbish in bulk bags, and obviously there's some national companies out there who actually do that. So
Biffo.
I'm thinking of the other one, which is called Hippo.
Sorry, it is Hippo. Sorry, I said Biffo. It was Hippo. See, I'm dyslexic.
So those companies, for example, you can buy the bags in like builders merchants and that sort of stuff, and that's quite a good service. But I personally find them a little bit on the expensive side,
and they're restrictive. certain things they won't allow you.
Yeah, so you've got the same sorts of issues really. But I do think that the marketplace is ripe for operators, and I know there's one near me now, an independent, and they're doing something like 300 or 400 bags a month they're collecting. So that's a real growing business, you know. And they've got a small truck as well, so they can probably take 2 bags at a time. But then they shift them back to their what they call waste transfer site, which is a legitimate place, and then they sift through it and they sort it, and then they get a pile of plastic, pile of wood. So it's good. I mean, it's a nice little business. If someone out there is thinking of getting into a load of rubbish, they can get into that.
I think the thing is, the thing is that I think what we probably deduce from all this is that it's hard to get rid of rubbish. It isn't cheap.
No.
And it doesn't look like it's going to get any cheaper, does it?
No, it doesn't.
I'm not sure that all this bureaucracy that they've put around it, all these waste carriers licenses, let's face it, you can get a waste carrier's license if it's only your own stuff that you're... Now, even then, you think, well, what's your own stuff, you know? Apparently, if you have an empty silicone tube in the back of your van...
It's waste,
that's waste, and they can nab you for it.
Well, someone's got to be completely off their head to nab you for that, haven't they?
Well, I would like to think that they stop you if they suspect you of being that kind of person. But for these people that actually are just like jobs worth, and they just to apply that rule there and fine you £600 for having an empty silicone, it doesn't solve anything, does it?
No,
it doesn't begin to, because what can you do? You can go, I've seen a guy, scaffolder's lorry, I saw them lodge something into the hedge as they went by, and I looked
now that really
and it was a McDonald's thing, and it just seemed like they'd all just had their burgers, and they just didn't want them stinking out the van.
What really freaks me out though is when you're driving along, and it could be anywhere, you drive along and then on the verge you see Red Bull cans and you see bloody stuff people sling out their cars, and I think to myself, why would you want to do that? Why can't you just take it, drive through a petrol station, you haven't got to get out of your car, undo the window, pop it into the bin, just put it in the bin. It does my head in. That just freaks me right out.
Or just take it home and dispose of it, but they won't. They want their cars spotless. That's the funny thing. Those people have a spotless vehicle because they chuck everything out of it.
I was with my daughter, she was only about 10 at the time, and we were out shopping one Saturday, and we pulled behind a car in the car park, multi-storey, and we parked, they parked, and two guys and a girl got out, and they all had a can of pop, and they finished them and just put them underneath, just literally slotted them underneath the car. And I thought, you're not going to leave that there, are you? So I went and I put them on top of the roof of the car, all 3 of them. And my daughter's like, what are you doing? I said, no, they can find them when they get back, just so they don't. She was like, what are you doing? And I think someone else had clocked me as well, and they sort of not give me this approving nod, you know what I mean? I thought to myself, why do you want to do that for?
Vigilantes. Waste.
Who I am?
No, all of us. I mean, I'm the same. I get in, I've had arguments with people, almost stand-up fights with them over rubbish. Just see them chuck it, and I go, excuse me, you just dropped something. Yeah, I know, I don't want it. I go, well, you got to take it home, sunshine. And just have. Anyway, there you go. We're grumpy. I'm a grumpy old man. You're a grumpy middle-aged man.
Younger man.
So I think it's one of those things that is never going to be solved, but I'm not sure the government is going the right way around it, because I know where they're trying to get to. They're trying to get to the fly tippers, but the fly tippers are the one load of people who will not be intimidated by a piece of paper.
No,
they couldn't care less, And until they start impounding their vehicles and that kind of thing, they're going to get nowhere with it. That's what they have to do. They have to crush the vehicle that they're using to do this job, because they're not getting to grips with it. I think they're almost outside the law, those guys. The police, whether they're afraid of them or can't be bothered, or they haven't got the manpower, but I feel so ashamed, because anybody that comes to this country as a visitor, tourists, and they drive around, you think, what must they think? And you get people who think they're patriotic. They might have a blooming St George's flag flying from the car or whatever, or tattoo on there which is going, that they think they're the most patriotic people in the world, and they're not, because they're trashing their country. They don't care enough about their country to put a piece of litter in the bin. So
but then there are the opposites. It's lovely to see when you're out walking and see someone pick a bit of rubbish up, it's not their rubbish, and you think, that's something I'd actually
groups of people
going around clearing up and making the place. There's a little country in the Caribbean that I sometimes have a holiday in. It's a real beautiful, it's a nature island of the Caribbean, and my daughter said to me, drove around, she went, Dad, I've not seen one bit of litter in this whole island, and it's phenomenal. And it's kind of like, there's only 60,000 people in this island, it's quite a big island, and you just don't see any rubbish. They love their country so much, they would not dream of doing that.
Absolutely.
I mean, I absolutely totally agree with that. Is that you could go to
so many countries I go to where you don't see any litter at all, and you just think, most of Germany, for example, Berlin's a bit messy in certain places. I'm going to say this is going to sound terrible as well. Some of East Germany isn't.
You've got it in for Germans again.
No. Some of former East Germany. What I'm saying is that Germany is a spotless country. You drive through miles and miles of Germany, you won't see any litter. But actually, when you go into what was former Eastern Germany, some of those places they haven't quite got the same ethos. So But anyway, I'm not. It's not anti-German. I think that Europe in general is a hell of a lot tidier than we are. And that's the way it is.
But given, everyone complains that skips are expensive, I do have a close relationship with a couple of skip operators. And when you look at how much those vehicles are, paying salaries to guys, having the operator's license, the insurances, now they have to have like 6 cameras on the vehicles as well, pure because of, unfortunate accidents and that sort of stuff. And also litigation claims. For example, quick example, this skip company who I know, he said to me that they used to get a lot of phone calls. People say something fell out of the skip onto their car, damaged their car. And so now with the rear mounted cameras, they can say when did it happen and where did it happen, and then we'll happily check, and if we've got it on the camera, we'll admit liability. But if you can't tell us exactly where and when, and if you weren't following us, and I think that actually, all of these costs add to the fact that the skips need to be where they're at. So an 8 metre skip is around about £300, including VAT now. I don't know what it's like north of the country or whatever, but so
I know they need more. They need my skip driver. He's a one-man band, owns his own lorry. He said to me, "He's had 2 MOTs a year." Right?
2 MOTs, yeah.
Yeah, so it all adds up. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. All I'm saying is that the obvious route for other people, especially with this £100 a day on the road license that a local authority want,
the dispensation, the parking dispensation.
That's just them being greedy, because the councils haven't got any money. Basically, that's why, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they're trying to make it on every opportunity, but for them to be charging you, and then on top of the skip cost, it just means that it's wide open for all these guys who go around fly tipping and taking your rubbish away for 150 quid, and that is the problem. And if we can stop that happening, it'll be a great day, but I don't know how. I really don't.
Well, quite often when I look at when we go do alterations, you do pick up a floorboard, and all of the previous work that's ever been done in the house has all been gone underneath the floorboards, or in the stud partitions they've filled it up with offcuts of plasterboard or beer cans and all the rest of it. We even found a safe in one job. This is a classic. We found a safe plasterboarded up in a cellar.
Brilliant.
And it was a great big heavy thing, and so obviously told the customer, and they said, we thought there was something there. And we spent ages trying to cut into it, and when we cut into it, there was already a hole in the back. Someone had already had a go.
So of course nothing in there at all. No, I mean, it's actually, I did see a recommendation from somebody, and I don't know who it was, whether it was one of the plasterboard companies, that a legitimate way of disposing of plasterboard is to put it inside your stud walls. So
can't do any harm, I suppose.
We think of it as a cowboy thing, and they're saying no, that's the sensible thing to do.
That's a good idea, isn't it?
As you're boarding them up, but I would look at it as blooming cowboy.
No, but actually, if you, to be fair, if you did slice it up, grip fill it back in layers, it's going to add a bit of sound deadening. It's fireproof, obviously.
Definitely, yeah.
Actually, I don't think that's a bad idea. I think we could start a craze here.
Okay, so don't get a skip, hide it all in your walls.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He's just talking about the plasterboard, not your fish packets and things like that. Avoid that at all costs.
Can you imagine for future generations of Time Team? It would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You can just start opening the walls up and it's all there.
But isn't it lovely when you
do
find an old coin or something? It's just so nice. It's just like, oh my God, it must tell a story.
I always find players.
Oh, the cigarette boxes, cigarette
Senior
boxes.
Service, all those fag packets that have disappeared. Do you remember Players number 6?
I don't. I was much younger than you, Roger, as you know.
Nostalgia. Great days. Anyway, thanks very much for listening. Another little ramble from us, but we both feel very passionately about getting rid of rubbish. The problems that it's causing the industry.
And we welcome any tips anyone's got, like the plasterboard in the stud wall.
No fly tips though.
Yeah, no fly tips. I like that. Nice one, Dylan. If anyone out there's got any sort of little tips, just like the plasterboard one in the walls, actually quite like that idea now. I think that's actually quite helpful. not filling your client's loft up with rubbish. That's probably not a very good one, but that'd be great to hear them.
What about linking back to one of our previous podcasts with the grumpy neighbours?
Oh yeah, put it on their garden.
Thanks very much for listening, and come back soon, and hopefully we'll have another podcast for you.